"You're lying!" The prosecutor's voice thundered through the courtroom. The young girl at the defendant's table didn't blink. Instead, she smirked. "Am I?" she asked, tilting her head. "Or did I just prove you're the one twisting the truth?" Gasps. Whispers. The judge's gavel slammed down. "Order in the court." But it was too late. Everyone had just witnessed something unthinkable. A 17-year-old girl tearing apart the prosecution's case like a seasoned attorney. Judge Patterson, known for his ruthless judgments, leaned forward, gripping the paper in his hands. His voice, usually sharp, wavered. "Miss Brooks," he said, "you passed the bar at 16? Silence. The entire courtroom hung on her next words. Maya smiled. "Yes, Your Honor. Now may I continue?" The judge swallowed hard. This case was no longer about guilt or innocence. It was about something far bigger. And Maya? She wasn't backing down. "Before we go further, tell us where you're watching from. If you believe in justice and truth, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below." Maya Brooks wasn't supposed to be here. A 17-year-old girl, standing alone in a courtroom, going head-to-head with seasoned lawyers. It sounded impossible. But for Maya, this fight had started long before today. She grew up in a quiet Chicago suburb, raised by her grandmother, Clara, a retired schoolteacher who always told her, "Knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing how to use it." And Maya? She had both. By the time other kids were playing with dolls, she was reading law books. At 12, she was debating college students. By 16, she had passed the bar exam, something she kept a secret. She never wanted fame. She never wanted the spotlight. But then she met Teresa Carter, a single mother, 2 kids, nowhere to go. Her landlord was evicting her on a lie, claiming she violated her lease just so he could raise the rent. Maya saw injustice, and she wasn't the type to look away. She took Teresa's case, digging through documents, uncovering inconsistencies, and preparing legal arguments stronger than most practicing lawyers. She sent letters to the landlord. He ignored them, so she filed a lawsuit. And now she was here, standing in front of a judge, fighting a battle no one expected her to win. But they had underestimated her, and that was their biggest mistake. "You must be joking." Judge Patterson leaned back in his chair, shaking his head, his tone dripping with disbelief. "A teenager, standing in my courtroom, arguing a case like this." He chuckled, looking at the prosecutor. "Mr. Cole, tell me, should I be taking this seriously?" The courtroom snickered, but Maya didn't react. She stood tall, hands steady, eyes locked on the judge. "I'm not asking you to take me seriously, Your Honor," she said. "I'm asking you to take the law seriously." The laughter died instantly. Judge Patterson's smirk faded. The prosecutor, Mr. Cole, cleared his throat. "Your Honor, this is absurd. This girl has no real authority." "Objection," Maya interrupted smoothly. "I have passed the bar. I have filed this case within the legal framework. Unless opposing counsel would like to argue against the Constitution itself, I have every right to be here." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Judge Patterson studied her, tapping his gavel against his desk. "Fine," he said. "Proceed." Maya exhaled. Step 1, complete. She turned toward the jury. "This case isn't complicated," she began. "Teresa Carter, a hard-working single mother, paid her rent on time every month. Her lease agreement is clear. Yet, her landlord decided he wanted more money, so he fabricated violations to force her out." She turned to the landlord's table. "Mr. Reynolds, would you care to explain why you served an eviction notice before even conducting an inspection?" Reynolds shifted in his seat. His lawyer, Mr. Cole, cut in. "Objection. That's speculation." Maya held up a document. "This is the timestamp on the eviction notice. And here," she lifted another paper, "is the maintenance report dated 3 days after the notice." She turned back to the jury. "You can't find violations after you've already decided to evict someone, unless, of course, the violations were never real to begin with. Gasps. The judge glanced at the documents. His jaw tightened. Maya pressed forward. Mr. Reynolds, do you deny that you recently increased rent for the tenant who moved into Miss Carter's unit? Reynolds clenched his jaw. His lawyer objected again. Relevance? Maya smiled. Motive, Your Honor. Judge Patterson didn't say a word. He simply nodded for her to continue. Maya had them. The case was shifting in her favor. But just when she thought the worst was over, the courtroom doors burst open. 2 police officers walked in. The bailiff approached the judge, whispering something into his ear. Then the judge looked up. Miss Brooks, he said, his voice suddenly colder. Maya's stomach tightened. You need to come with us for questioning. Gasps filled the courtroom. Teresa's face turned pale. Maya kept her expression neutral. On what grounds? The officer stepped forward. We've received a report that you falsified evidence in this case. The cold metal chair creaked beneath Maya as she sat in the interrogation room. A single overhead light buzzed softly. Across from her, Detective Harris leaned forward, folding his hands. His eyes studied her like a puzzle he was trying to solve. You're in a lot of trouble, Miss Brooks, he said, sliding a document toward her. Maya glanced down. A printed email chain. Her emails. Or so they wanted people to believe. These are the emails you submitted as evidence, Harris continued. But our digital forensics team found inconsistencies. Timestamps don't match. Signatures look altered. Maya didn't blink. Where did you get this report? She asked. Harris smirked. That doesn't matter. What matters is whether you falsified evidence in court. Maya exhaled, leaning back. They're trying to scare me. She knew exactly what this was. Another dirty trick from the landlord's team, and she wasn't falling for it. With a calm smile, she met Harris's gaze. Detective, if you truly had proof of forgery, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be under arrest. Harris's smirk wavered. Maya leaned forward. The emails are real. The timestamps were pulled directly from the server, verified by an independent digital forensics expert. She tapped the document. But I'd love to know where this came from, because if you're acting on fabricated evidence, that's called obstruction of justice. Silence. Harris exhaled through his nose, sitting back. Then, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. A message. His expression shifted. Maya tilted her head. Problem, detective? Harris let out a slow breath before standing. You're free to go. Maya stood, smoothing out her blazer. Next time someone tries to frame me, she said, tell them to at least be smart about it. She walked out, heart pounding. She had won this round, but she wasn't done yet. As she stepped outside, Teresa was waiting, panic in her eyes. What happened? She whispered. Maya looked past her, straight at Mr. Reynolds and his smug lawyer, standing at the other end of the hall. She smiled. They played their last trick, she said. Now it's my turn. The courtroom was packed. The tension in the air was suffocating. Maya Brooks walked in, head high, shoulders squared. She had spent all night preparing for this moment. Today, the case wouldn't just turn in her favor. It would end in her favor. Judge Patterson entered, his expression unreadable. Miss Brooks, are you ready to proceed? Maya stood. Yes, Your Honor. She turned to the jury. The defense has tried everything to silence us, she began. Fake violations, fake witnesses, even fake accusations against me. She walked toward the judge's bench, holding up a stack of fresh documents. But facts don't lie, and today I present proof that Mr. Reynolds not only fabricated his eviction claims, but also attempted to manipulate this very court. She handed the documents to the bailiff. These, she continued, are financial records linking Reynolds to a shell company, one that paid witnesses to testify against my client. Gasps. The prosecutor shot to his feet. Objection. This is... Maya held up another document. And these are emails, real ones, confirming those payments, verified by an independent forensic investigator. Judge Patterson flipped through the papers, his face hardening. Maya turned to the landlord. You tried to frame Teresa. You tried to frame me. But the truth is simple. You're a fraud, and you've been caught. Silence. Then, the judge's gavel slammed down. Mr. Reynolds, Patterson said, voice like steel, you are hereby held in contempt of court. This case will now move toward final judgment. Maya exhaled. She had won. The courtroom was silent. Judge Patterson adjusted his glasses, looking over the final ruling. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Maya Brooks sat beside Teresa, her hands clasped together, waiting. Finally, the judge spoke. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Teresa Carter. Boom. The courtroom erupted into gasps and murmurs. The eviction is overturned, the judge continued. Furthermore, Mr. Reynolds is ordered to pay damages for unlawful eviction and misconduct. Teresa covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. Maya squeezed her hand. We did it. Across the room, the landlord slumped in his chair, his lawyer whispering furiously in his ear. He had lost. Maya stood. This wasn't just about Teresa, she said, her voice firm. It's about every tenant who has ever been bullied, lied to, and treated as if they don't matter. Today, the law proved otherwise. The reporters in the back scribbled furiously. The cameras flashed. Judge Patterson cleared his throat. Miss Brooks, he said, looking at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. Well done. Maya Brooks didn't just win a case. She proved that one voice, no matter how young, no matter how underestimated, can make a difference. But this isn't just her fight. Every day, people like Teresa Carter are wrongfully evicted, silenced, and forced to accept injustice. It doesn't have to be that way. What would you have done in Maya's place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you believe in standing up for what's right, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because more powerful stories are coming your way. And share this video, because justice is a fight we win together. The battle isn't over, and neither is Maya. See you in the next one.